Sockets, Ains was still muttering casually to Hims. LF Clementine then realized that there had been no blood when she stabbed him. No way. Impossible. Why aren't you dead? She had never heard of a martial art like this which could make people invincible. Or had he used some other method to deal with her stabs? If that were the case, how had he stopped the follow-up magical attacks? Even a hardened veteran like Clementine had no answer to those questions. Clementine's body was swallowed in an embrace, and she was now pressed against Mammon. The adventurer's plates rattled. Shall I tell you the answer? The jet-black full plate vanished, revealing a terrible face beneath. It was a fleshless skull. Her stilettos protruded from his empty eye sockets, through the black mirror shades covering them, but it did not seem to be in the slightest bit of pain. Clementine knew what that face meant. Undead and Elder Lich. Well, I had a lot of questions to ask you, but I guess not. All I can say is that your answer came quite close. Then, the monster before her had neither skin nor flesh, and so it should not have an expression on its face. Yet, Clementine had the feeling that it was smiling at her. How does it feel? How does it feel to fight a magic caster with sword in hand? How does it feel to be unable to finish things in a heartbeat? Don't look down on me. Clementine used all her strength to struggle free, but she was held immobile, as though by sturdy chains. Elder Liches were powerful undead, who were skilled in the use of magic attacks, but their physical abilities were not very impressive. Clementine should have had the advantage. However, she could not get free. Once she realized that the mighty arm which held her, in other words, his physical strength, was not the result of his armor's enchantment, Clementine froze. What she saw in her mind was a butterfly trapped in a spider's web, with no way out. This is what I meant by a handicap. Simply put, there was no need for me to go all out, that is to say, cast a spell, against an opponent like you. Son of a bitch. Well then, since the truth's out, let's begin, but first, these are in the way. There was a grinding sound as the Elder Lich pulled out the stilettos, which had been stabbed into its eyes, and cast them aside. As the undead creature did this, Clementine was still struggling for dear life, but even her full strength could not compare to the power in just a single arm of his. All she could do was squirm helplessly within his embrace, unable to move. After the two stilettos were drawn out, an evil red light remained in those empty eye sockets. They looked down on the panting, gasping Clementine as she exerted herself. Now then, shall we begin? Clementine, who was on guard against anything her opponent might try to pull ever since she heard the word begin, felt herself being drawn nearer to the Elder Lich, closer than even lovers were. After that, she heard a strange creaking sound. Clementine understood what the Elder Lich was doing as a chill ran down her spine, as though she had been impaled by an icicle. No way, you bastard. The creaking sound was the bending of armor. He was planning to crush her flat against his own chest. Of course her own armor would press against the Elder Lich's chest, but he must have used some method to harden his own body. His immovable body was like a sturdy, thick wall. Perhaps if you were weaker. The Elder Lich withdrew a dagger from somewhere. It was black, with 4 jewels set into its hilt. I thought about using this to finish you off, but well, isn't it all the same if you get stabbed to death by a sword, die by having your spine broken, or get crushed to death? In the end, you die. Clementine's body shuddered. His casual tone caused panic to bloom in her heart, and the crushing pressure on her chest grew. The metal plates taken from the adventurers she had killed could no longer bear the strain, and they scattered to the ground like they were being buried. The first to fall were the 4 silver plates which she had recently acquired. It was frightening how it was becoming more and more painful to breathe. She hated the arm at her back, the one which held her. She resented herself for wearing light armor to increase her evasive ability, and to display her adventurer's plate trophies. Clementine knew that swords were useless against the Elder Lich, and so she punched wildly at his face. However, that hurt Clementine more than it did him. Then, as the pain set in, she reached for her morning star to maul him, but she was not used to wielding it and injured herself instead. She could clearly see the fate awaiting her. From how the act of breathing was getting more and more difficult, the ever-increasing pressure on her belly, her slowly deforming armor, she knew exactly what was going to happen to her. Don't bother struggling. Do you think I can't end this quickly just by changing where my arm is pressing? You took your time killing them, so I'm going to take my time killing you as well. Clementine desperately flailed at him. She tried to push his face away, scratched at him until her nails nearly came off, even tried biting him, but nothing she did worked, and the unbearable pressure kept increasing. No matter how hard she struggled, she could not break free of the arm binding her. Even so, Clementine kept squirming, betting everything for a slim chance at hope even as it became difficult to breathe and her vision began blacking out. Is this the dance of death? She did not even have the strength to hear those whispered words. There was the sound of retching, and then vomit spewed over Ains's body. The scarlet points of light in Ains's eyes dimmed slightly. Clementine, who had been desperately swinging her arms about in the hope of escaping, was now a spasming lump of meat. Still, Ains did not loosen his grip, but tightened it further. Soon, the feeling of thick bones breaking ran up through Ains's arms. He released the body, which could not even twitch anymore. Clementine's body thudded heavily on the ground, like a sack of rubbish. Her face was a hideous blend of agony and terror. Like a deep-sea fish brought up to the surface, one could see her internal organs in her mouth. Ains took out his pitcher of endless water, and used its ever-flowing stream of clean water to rid himself of the vomit that stuck to his body. At the same time, he spoke casually to Clementine, who could no longer answer him. I forgot to tell you, but I am a terrible hypocrite. Part 5. Just as Ains was starting to get annoyed by having to wet his clothes while cleaning his body, he heard a huge object approaching fast. He turned toward the source of the sound, and as it turned out, it was Hamsuk. Hamsuk's fighting power was far weaker than that of Ains or Narbril. Allowing it to fight would only lead to unnecessary injuries. Therefore, he ordered it to stand by some distance away. It must have come because it could not hear the sound of fighting anymore. He recognized the expression on the giant hamster's adorable face. It was worried for Ains, and he went a little weak. The giant hamster, which did not know what its master was thinking, approached Ains with unexpected speed, and then looked around. When it locked eyes with Ains, it flipped over and bared its belly while wailing, "There's a horrible monster here. Milord. Milord." Ains grabbed his head, all the strength fleeing his body. Come to think of it, he had not yet shown Hamsuk his true form. However, he could not let it continue making a racket here. As he looked to the graveyard wall in the distance, he saw that the adventurers were still battling the wraiths. Judging by distance alone they should not be able to hear Hamsuk, but there was no guarantee of that. In a stern tone, Ains scolded Hamsuk, "That's enough clowning around from you." Oh? That manly and commanding voice, could it be Milord? Indeed. That's why I want you to keep your voice down. Unbelievable. This is more than what I expected, though I long knew Milord was possessed of tremendous power. This Hamsuk's faithful loyalty to you is redoubled. Is that so? However, I'll say it again, keep your voice down. That's cruel, Milord. Please do not make light of your servant's pledge of loyalty. Did you not hear what Ains Sama said? Fool. Part of Hamsuk's body flattened as it was kicked into the distance. In place of its body was Narbril's foot, which she slowly withdrew. Ains Sama, there should be no value in raising this foolish life form. Would you allow your loyal servant to incinerate it with lightning? No, being known as the one who commands the wise king of the forest is quite worthwhile. Having it alive and well on our travels is beneficial to us. Back to the point, Narbril, time is short. Go loot their bodies. We might need to turn their possessions over to the local authorities, so we need to ascertain the value of those objects first. Understood. I will be in the chapel. Take care of the rest. Yes. Then, what about the corpses? Should we take them back to Nazareth? No. We might need to hand over the masterminds behind the incident, so just take their equipment. Understood. Owie. Hamsuk, who had just run back, sighed with deliberate loudness. Narbril glared coldly at him. Ain Sama's words are more important than anything you have to say. This is basic knowledge for one of his servants. A life form like you is the lowest ranked of all his minions, so you will either pay attention, or I will kill you on the spot. Hamsuk shivered. Next time, it will not be a physical attack, but magic. For the crime of disobeying Ain Sama, you will suffer until you pray for death. I understand, please do not put on that scary face, although, I was quite surprised by how majestic he looked. It was quite impressive. Narbril's expression softened a little and she said, indeed. Ain Sama cuts an impressive figure. At least you have good taste. Thank you for your praise. But if that is how my lord looks, then do you have another face as well, Narbril Dano? I am a doppelganger. This face of mine is made by my own innate abilities. Watch. She removed a glove and revealed a hand with only 3 fingers, which were longer than human fingers. They resembled the bodies of peppered moths. I see. Don't look so surprised. You're a servant in the great tomb of Nazareth as well, so don't make such a big deal over such small things. Anyway, I'm going to strip the magic items from the corpses, so come along and help me. Yes. Understood. Diamond suit, diamond suit, diamond suit. The boy in Fyria was in the chapel. As Ains looked at him, the red light in his eye sockets dimmed. He wore a strange, transparent outfit which drew attention to his body, but Ains' attention was on his face. Someone had cut him across the face and punctured his eyes. From the tear-shaped clots of reddish-black blood that wept down his cheeks, it was clear that he was blind. Well, blindness can be cured, and magic really is convenient. The question now was Nfiria's current condition. He had been standing up here, but had not reacted to Ains' arrival. Even if his eyes could not see, he should have known that someone was coming. However, there was no reaction, which implied one thing, mind control. The question now was what sort of control he was under. It must be this. Ains' gaze settled on the spider-web-like crown which rested on Fyria's head. Or rather, it would be better to say that nothing else looked more suspicious than it. Just as he reached out to remove the crown, Ains stopped himself halfway. Since he did not know what had caused this, he should not make any careless moves. Therefore, Ains cast a spell on the crown. All appraisal magic item. In Yggdrasil, this spell would tell its caster about a magic item's creator and manufacturer. The spell could also be cast here. No, beyond that, information which could not appear in Yggdrasil showed up in Ains' mind. The Crown of Wisdom. I see. However, this item's abilities don't exist in Yggdrasil, so it's a magic item that could not have existed in Yggdrasil. Ains sighed after learning all this, and began thinking about what to do next. He was mainly concerned about the benefits of bringing Fyria back to the great tomb of Nazareth. The prospect of gaining a rare magic item, and an equally rare talent holder was very attractive. However, his hesitation only lasted for a moment. Since I accepted this task, failing it on purpose would stain the name of Ains' Ulgaun. Greater break item. Ains cast a spell on the crown. The sight of it decomposing into sparkling dust was quite beautiful. Ains tenderly embraced the limp youth and gently laid him on the ground. Then he examined Fyria's face. After this, all I need to do is heal his eyes, though I probably shouldn't do that here. Ains touched his face, and then rose slowly. The undead he had summoned had not been completely wiped out yet, but he sensed that some of them had already been destroyed. Soon, the reinforcements, or rather, interfering busybodies, would find this place. Before that, he had to recast his facial illusion and remake his swords and armor. He also had to recover their magic items quickly. Unlike how things were when he piked in Yggdrasil, he could take all their weapons and gear for this own. It pleased him. As he looked back to see if he needed to help Narbril collect the equipment, she appeared at the entrance of the chapel. Ains Sama. What's the matter? Have you already collected the enemy's gear? How about their cash? Yes. However, there is something I wanted to consult you about, concerning this. Narbril advanced into the chapel, a black orb in her hand. It looked uneven, like a pebble one might find by the side of a river, and it did not seem very valuable. What is that? It seems to be something which the inferior life form, flatworm, I fought treasured deeply. However, I do not know what effects it has. Is that so? Narbril the NPC knew far fewer spells than Ains, and most of them were combat spells. This was why she could not appraise its value. Ains picked up the orb, and cast the same spell he had just now. All appraisal magic item. The red points of light which served as Ains' eyes lit up. What is this? The Orb of Death. And it's an intelligent magic item? The Orb of Death was an impressive name, but it was hardly outstanding. It aided in controlling the undead, and it could cast several different necromantic spells every day, but none of those appealed to Ains. It also had the drawback of mentally dominating humans who held it, although Ains and Narbril, who possessed defenses against mind-affecting effects, were immune as were demihumans or heteromorphic creatures. What a strange item. The only thing which intrigued him was the fact that it was an intelligent magic item. Ains poked it lightly, and just as he was about to command it to speak, there was a voice in his head. Greetings to you, O mighty King of Death. Those words echoed within his skull. Ains continued looking at the orb. In a world of monsters and magic, this was hardly something to shout about. It really is an intelligent magic item. Ains nimbly rolled the orb from hand to hand, and then continued examining it. However, the orb did not show any sign of wanting to speak. Ains pondered the situation, and then after deciding a possible reason for this, he said, I permit you to speak. You have my deepest thanks, mighty King of Death. This reaction reminded Ains of the loyal NPCs of Nazarick, and he chuckled. Please accept the utmost respect of this one for the absolute aura of death which surrounds you. I should have dispelled all my auras. Why does this item keep calling me the King of Death? I shall permit it. My deepest thanks, O Supreme Overlord of Death. I am deeply grateful to all the forms of death which exist within this world that I could encounter an exalted being like yourself. Though the orb was laying it on a bit thick, those words seemed sincere enough. It made Ains' back itch a little, so he thrust his chest forward and said, And? Can you speak anything besides flattery? Yes. This one deeply apologizes for this thoughtless request, but this one has a wish that it hopes you will help to grant. What wish? Yes. This one has always felt that it had come to this world in order to spread death, but after meeting a mighty King of Death like yourself, this one realized that it had been truly born in order to serve you. Oh, mighty King of Death, please accept this one's fealty. This one hopes to have a place among your faithful servants. It sounded sincere enough, and if it had a head, it would probably have been lowered. Ains pressed his knuckles to his mouth and began thinking. He had to consider the merits and demerits of taking it as a minion, whether it was reliable, and so on. Ains examined the magic item again. For safety's sake, he should probably destroy it. However, something like this did not exist in Yggdrasil, so destroying it would be a waste. After casting several protective spells on the orb, Ains called out to the giant hamster that had entered the chapel. Hamsuk. What does my lord desire? Take it. Ains tossed the orb he was holding, and Hamsuk nimbly caught it. May I ask my lord about this item? It's a magic item. You can use it, right? I should be able to. But it's noisy. It's so loud I want to return it to my lord. Narbril looked at Hamsuk, her eyes wide. Are you giving it to the newcomer? Ains could tell from the way she had lost control of her voice that Narbril was deeply shaken. Though I've already cast anti-detection spells on it, I can't say it's perfectly safe, so it's better to hand it to Hamsuk. I see. As expected of Ains Sama. Your wise judgments are impeccable. Before him were Narbril and Hamsuk, who was bowing. Its cheeks were larger than a human's fists. Just as he was about to order them to fall back, Ains noticed his bright red cape. On a whim, he grabbed its hem. Now then. If the recovery is complete, then let us take Nymphyria. Ains flourished his red cape in a grandiose manner. And return in triumph. Clone. New paste. Few persons can be made to believe that it is not quite an easy thing to invent a method of secret writing which shall baffle investigation. Yet it may be roundly asserted that human ingenuity cannot concoct a cipher which human ingenuity cannot resolve. Edgar Allan Poe. 183,431 pastes opened. Based on an original idea from sebsavage.net. Sam and Max.